There we go. Um, yeah. Elaine. Elaine, so yeah, take it away. Do you want to introduce
Okay,
yourself a little bit?
yeah. I'm Elaine Mitchell, and I was living in Lancaster and just moved down here to Atlanta the end of last May, and have two kids down here with 8 grandkids down here. So God just told us last February, out of the blue, and Ron and I, my husband, we're both have strong opinions. And we hardly ever agree immediately on something. And that day, we totally knew we were supposed to come down here and not knowing why. Um, so that began our adventure of getting back down here. And I'll tell you some of the story from that later. I mean, absolutely, God was going before us to get us down here. We learned that later. But I have a son that's in Lancaster who is the pastor at LCBC. And he's been there since he graduated from college, so over 20 years, and done different kind of ministries. And then November 23, no, 22, he became is it 22? 22, he became the lead pastor after the pastor had been there for years and years and years and years. So that was a really big deal.
Yeah.
I thought that I would just share my testimony with you guys, mainly not because I think you need to hear it, but because I'm almost going to be 69 next week. And a lot of life has happened to me. And I want to see if anything resonates with you and help you to know that sometimes my life hasn't been very easy either. I've had to learn a lot about God. So let me just start out this way. I grew up in a home where I had a very abusive mom. Now, my father was a pastor, so I was a preacher's kid. And during those days, it was very legalistic. I mean, like you couldn't go to movies, you couldn't do all kind of things, very legalistic. And I always had this feeling that the minute I messed up, God was just going to hit me with a baseball bat. And I just never could do enough. And it was very difficult for me to have a mom who was so abusive. So because I couldn't make sense in my mind, how was I supposed to love her when she was this way, because God wants you to love them. And then there was just so many things that didn't make sense. So I met my husband in high school, and we dated for almost 5 years. We got married. Both of us came to the marriage very wounded. He had a very dysfunctional family. Then I came in. So our years as a married couple were not easy at all. And he got saved later on. So he didn't have all the legalistic stuff that I did. He loved God he didn't have those feelings of, you have to do or whatever to get God's approval. So my 20s were really difficult years. I just didn't feel like I could do enough. And it was hard in my relationship with my husband. I was thinking the grass was greener on the other side. I definitely thought about divorce. I was a nurse, so I felt like I could take care of myself. I had 3 little kids at that time. And then God, how great he is. He moved us to Atlanta. And this was a lot, many, many years ago. He moved us to Atlanta, and the job that I did was the night shift. And I decided at that point I was going to throw out everything I knew about God, everything. I couldn't believe in him because he had been my parents' God, whatever. I needed to throw out everything. And so after I would get my work done on the night shift, I would spend time just going through the Bible. And I would start writing down verses that meant something. Because when I would read the word, I would read, like, when it said things, if it said he loves the righteous or whatever, I'd go, well, I'm not righteous. So, he does. I always thought in the negative. But I started the verse that kept coming to me, like a deer pants after water, so my heart longs for you. And I just kept searching and searching and searching for him. And I would take I still use these at times. I would take index cards and just write down verses that meant something to me that he was speaking to me about. And I would read those verses over and over and over again. And then little by little, I just saw my heart start to change. And then God brought into my path a book called Search for Significance, which was helping me know who I was in Christ. And that I lived in that book for several years, and I practiced it, I believed it, and it changed my life. So my husband is in a ministry, so we moved quite a bit. We moved from Atlanta to Greensboro, and we had a very young church at that time, and Ron and I were young, and we were just giving our all to it. And one of the things that God had done for me in my life was, because my mom was so abusive, he had put women into my pathway who loved me. And I'm sure that was so healing for my soul that I didn't know at that time was probably what got me through and going a really, really bad path. So when I always knew that people in your church would love your kids and stuff like that. Well, when we moved to there, around when Jason was around 9 years old, there was a guy in our church who started to become very close to our family. And we took him in and loved him, just like, as a Christian, you're supposed to do, or blah, blah, blah. 5 years later, we found out he had been sexually abusing our son. And I have to tell you, that was a defining moment for me, because I didn't know if I was going to go on with God or not. And here's one of the reasons why. I had prayed, because I was a psychiatric nurse. I was dealing with people who were sexually abused. I knew that could happen to people. I prayed all the time that nothing like that would touch my kids. And so when that touched my family, I thought God had abandoned me. And I felt the rug pulled out from under me like I'd never had before, and just thought, I don't know if I can go on with you. And months of depression and anxiety. And of course, we went to the police and we got all that involved, and he got eventually put in prison. But here's what brought me back. I read a book called, I think it was by Dobson, When God Doesn't Make Sense. And there was a story in there about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego saying to that king, we know our God can deliver us, but even if he doesn't, we will remain faithful. And when I read that, I went, you could have delivered him. You could have not allowed this to happen. And I understand we suffer the consequences of other people's sin. Okay. So it's not that God willed that to happen. I suffered another person's sin. But that changed me, and I went, okay, I have a decision here to make. I'm going to go on. But can't say that it was easy. And the reason I'm sharing this with you, because I want you to realize I've done a lot of work with God, and still am doing it. I've had years of being depressed, really, really depressed. And when that happened, that was devastating to me. And my kids they did a complete turnaround. Where they had loved God, they were through with God. They became the most disrespectful kids. We ended up moving to Kentucky. They were rebellious. They were disrespectful to adults. They had wanted nothing to do with God. And I was desperate. I was scared. I did not know how my kids were going to turn out. And I started, of course, first of all, trying to be the Holy Spirit. Like, I'd hear them say things and I go, oh, no, Jesus doesn't want you to do that. And, all this kind of stuff. And they would just shut me off like that. And then I realized I cannot be the Holy Spirit. All I can do is be here to listen, and I better change my game. And at that time, I became a prayer warrior for my kids. And every stormy or Martian book she had out there of praying for your kids, and every single thing, I took it that it was my job. There's a verse in the Old Testament that talks about how we're the watchmen over our house, and you guys use the verse in Proverbs about being the keepers. I felt like I was on the wall watching over my family, looking to see, what was happening, what was coming in, what could I do. But the biggest thing I could do was pray for them, and I absolutely did that. We made a decision that we would not that our house would be the safe place, because this was all during the teen years in high school, y'all. So this was when they were really, really struggling. That we were going to make our place the safest. So that meant we had no life. You couldn't really do things and be the safe place. You had to sort of be home all the time. And Jason is the one, so the one that's the pastor at LCBC. We got into therapy. We did all the things that you're supposed to do. Okay. So I just want to clear that up. But prayer, he was going down a really bad path, really, really bad. And one night he came in, and I felt in my spirit, it was a time of, he was going to make some decisions that night. And I didn't do a lot of sleeping at night, guys. I was up a lot. I had this chair, I called it my prayer chair. I had my heater by me, I had my journal by me, and I would be awake 2 and 3 in the morning, many nights for a couple of hours, journaling and writing and praying for my kids. And that was one of those nights too that I knew something was going to be happening. And if you talk to him, he would tell you there was a crisis moment for him. He was either going to go with God or not go. And at that point, he made some changes, and he decided to leave the school he was and to go to a Christian school. And little by little, things started changing in our family. We had twins. They, in their senior year, they turned back to God. So I really, really know, I know with all my heart, my prayers, that God used my prayers to bring my kids around. And every one of mine has been in ministry. My daughter went to Amman, Jordan for over 11 years as missionaries. My other son here is he's over international prayer ministry. And when I see Jason on stage and I see how God has redeemed him, we are the Easter story. We are the Easter story, how he rose and died for us to have life again. And I tell you that because you're going to go through hard things. You're young moms. You're going to go through hard things. And I just want you to know that he can change things around, and you won't feel like it sometimes. You'll feel like he's abandoned you. You'll feel like he's not there. But you just remain faithful, and you find those people who will cling to you and link arms with you and encourage you in your journey. So that's been a part of our story. When Ron and I moved to California, maybe 15 years ago, and we were there 11 years. That was a very difficult time again for me, because I had always done my own thing. I had been a nurse. I did other things. I always had my job. But when we moved to California, I thought, okay, well, we can work together in the ministry. Well, it did not. We can't work together. I'm sorry. I mean, some of you guys can work with your spouses, and I am so happy you can, but we could not. And it was another very trying and very awakening time. And I'm going to come back to this story, but I got very, very sick and emotionally sick, and just felt like I was dying inside. And then God gave me a way out of that. So I'm going to share that with you in just a few minutes, because it's going to help with the story I'm going to tell you about us. I mean, all of us taking care of our own selves. When I told you that we felt compelled to move to Atlanta, We got here at the end of May, and in October, our 15-year-old grandson died suddenly. And what we thought was the flu, and took him to the hospital, and he had some kind of autoimmune disease, and within 3 days, he was dead. Had we not had those 5 months, I would have missed out on some of the most precious memories with him. He had autism, so he wasn't not an easy child, but he was starting to change, and there was just some significant things that were going on, and he and I would walk and talk, and I just am so grateful to God how he brought us here for that time. Now, as I share that with you, I'm going through one of the hardest times right now again. Another really God-defining moment in my life, and another time of I'm watching my daughter grieve, and it breaks my heart. I've lost my daughter, I lost my grandson, and I've lost my daughter in so many ways. I know because of the experience I've had, this is where years do help you, because you see how really his goodness does follow you and chases after you. I know that he will redeem what she has been through. I do know that. And I know she will come out even stronger. But when I read her posts, like today, she wrote something on Facebook again, my heart shattered for her, the grieving that she's doing for losing her son. So I tell you that because I'm now in another journey of walking through some really difficult stuff I don't want to be walking through. But I'm here, and this is what God has called me to do at this time. What I wanted to talk to you about, and what Emily Joy and I had talked about, is you guys, I know I'm going to assume because you're on here, you have the best intentions for your family. You want a really amazing family. And we're in a world where there's so many things coming against us all the time. But one of the things that comes against us so much is our own insecurities, our own fears, our own anxieties, frustrations, wrong beliefs, because some of you may have grown up in families where you had some trauma in your household, that you've attached meaning to things that aren't truth, where you think that you don't have a voice, or you become a people pleaser because you're trying to not I can't think of the word. You're just trying to get along with everybody and keep the peace. Those things eat at you. That is not living in the glory of who God called you to be. And so when Emily Joy's telling me the verse that y'all have chosen, she watches over the activities of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. I looked up that word idleness because I don't like that word, because to me, I think that so many times we've grown up thinking that idleness is sitting around and that you're being lazy. Sometimes we do need more margin in our life. Sometimes we do need white space where we're sitting around and we're being at peace with that. And I think sometimes we got from our family that we had to always be busy and doing things and that kind of thing. So I don't like the word idleness, but I looked it up, and that said the other thing is, another word for it is inaction. So she watches over the activities of her household and does not eat the bread of inaction. And what I want to talk to you, because I know as moms, we give to everybody else, but some of the last people we're given to is us. And we lay our head down on that pillow at night and we go, wow, I failed again today. Am I enough? How am I going to do this? And we feel lonely and scared, and we have a lot of fears. And I want to encourage you, because I work with this all the time now. I want to encourage you that you do your work on yourself. I told you I would go back almost 6 years ago. I was very desperately sick. I just had uterine cancer. I'd had a hysterectomy. I'd had atrial fib, another major surgery. And I was at a place where physically I was sick. I had been a yo-yo dieter all my life. And I saw a friend of mine get help. And I wanted to know what she was doing. So she told me about this program where she lost weight, but she got her life back. I saw it. I actually saw her change. And so I was scared to death, but I went, okay, I'm going to have to try this program. And I have to say, it absolutely gave me my life back. It was involved with a community that I didn't even know I needed, because we were all had a group of people. I don't know if this is like for you, but like there was a people I talked to about struggling with weight, because that's so embarrassing. How can you be, good in so many other areas, but you can't get this together? Besides my sisters, I would have never talked to anybody about that. So finding a community, really starting to look at, if this was an issue for me, the eating, then that was saying my mind is in distress. And I'd done lots of counseling, guys. I had done a whole lot of counseling, but nobody had ever helped me figure this piece out. And because of the content and the information that was in our book and the community and all that, I just got my life back. I got my joy back. I got my energy back. Every one of my kids would tell you I'm not the same. That was 6 years ago. And I've been on that journey. It's not been a straight line. Going through all what I've just gone through these last 9 months, 10 months, it's not been a straight line. I've defaulted to old patterns, but I know how to get me out of there. I know how to keep moving forward. And that's the work that I do. That's the action that I'm taking. Okay. I'm not sitting in inaction. I got back into therapy. I keep searching, I keep reading, I keep listening, I keep learning. And a lot, if you hang out with people in their 60s and 70s, a lot of times people are just like they've settled, and that is not going to be me. And that's where I want to encourage you. We cannot settle. If things are going on in your life, you have to figure out what the distress is. You have to look. And we are so blessed nowadays to have podcasts that are out there that can even save us money by listening to the podcast and practicing what you've learned. Now, the thing I've learned about myself is I think information is just going to automatically change me, but it's not. Information does not equal transformation. You have to apply what you learn. And that's especially too at the church. Why we say, we have lots of information. We're educated way beyond our level of belief. We have to practice and implement those truths that need to be changed in our life. And sometimes that means sitting with something for a while until you get it. So when we talk about you taking care over your emotional well-being, it's being honest with other people. Like, I'm really struggling in this area. And one of the things I want to offer to you guys, if there is anybody on here who after this meeting wants to talk, I am so willing to talk to you, because my desire is people be set free. I want you to walk in your glory. I don't want your crown to be crooked. I want you to be standing tall, not perfect, but walking in the glory that he called you to. And sometimes that means getting our voice back. My voice had been squashed, and God showed me it's time for you to get your voice. And I've had to do things that are really, really scary. If you go onto my Facebook page, you'll see I'm pretty open and honest, and I'm out there pretty much every single day with something, because I'm passionate about people being set free from emotional stuff. I'm passionate for people to have their health back. I'm passionate for people to care about their kids. And I know you guys do, but I'm telling you, we have to be careful with what we are feeding them. We have the obesity rate in America is escalating, and our kids are the ones paying. Now, if you go and look and see, you will see that they are struggling. You can go to the mall and walk around and see it. So it's extremely, to me, serious. And for me as a grandmother, I take it really serious. Because of the program I'm in, I have lots of fuelings and stuff that my grandkids can eat. So I don't have junk at my house. This is not, I don't want them coming to my house because, oh, grandma makes the best chocolate cake and all that. I want them to coming to my house because we're going to have the best dance parties they can have. And we're going to do things and experience things that they want to do, but it's not going to be about food. So that's because I care about them so much. And here's another thing. Your child may not even be showing any signs of obesity, but if they're drinking Cokes, I know I'm getting on a rampage, so sorry. Just let me do this one little thing. And if you want proof that I'm right, I have amazing guy you can listen to on podcasts that will help you. But even though they may not have a problem now, they are developing habits. They're going to go into their adulthood, and that's when their problems are going to start. And you may not have any kind of problem, but if you're not watching them and helping them learn those, they're going to carry that forth into other things. And I think that that's where we have to take action too, is watching over our own kids and their physical health and what they're doing to their bodies and how are they, taking care of themselves. What are we doing as a family? Are we physically active as a family? Are we doing things that are promoting health in our family, emotional health, spiritual health, and physical health? We have a responsibility. And some of you today, because I see this all the time, have a lot of anxiety. It seems to be pretty prevalent with most of the people I work with. There's a lot of anxiety now. And I want to encourage you that as much as you can, you do the work on those areas, because we have so much information now that we can change the pathways of our brain. We are not stuck, guys. But that means we have to give attention to ourselves. We have to put us high on the list of people to be worked on. And I thought this was interesting. I read this is a guy who does a lot about mindset, but he said, this is simple but true. The healthier you are, the better partner, the better parent and person that you're going to be. Taking care of yourself provides you energy to take better care of those around you. When you feel good, you make decisions with clarity instead of getting overwhelmed by the stressors of life. It is so important. I got a health assessment today from a girl in her 30s who 3 small kids, has no energy, not living her best life. Now, I don't know if she'll work with me or not, but this is the cry I hear so much. And we have to take responsibility for looking at our own selves, because it really is true. We cannot fill others' cups if ours are empty. And so many times we've just been taught that that's selfish. It is not selfish. It's not selfish. And I do think that the enemy comes in this area because we know like lying is sin and gossiping and things like that, but we minimize abusing food at times. We minimize, well, everybody does that, or alcohol, shopping, anything that you're using to not have to feel. Those are red flags that there needs to be some work done in that area. And that if that means you get a therapist or you get onto a podcast, you get books. We have lots of books out there now that can help you. You make the commitment to do the work, because what you don't correct in yourself will be passed down to your kids. And there's verses in the Bible that talks about the generation gets on and on and on. Our DNA has carried into our bodies from work that has not been done in our families. And we have a chance to correct. So I am working hard on myself, and I will to the end, to make my grandkids' legacy be better because I've done the work. And they can see a healthy version of somebody who really wants to be healthy mentally, physically, and has not accepted some of the lies of the world. I know that some of you are feeling exhausted, frustrated. Having a hard time dealing with feelings. And so when we do, some of you don't even know what feelings are. I didn't for a long time. I had to get that feeling. I had to print out a feeling list because if you know anything about the Enneagram, I'm a 3. So if you start having feelings, it's like, okay, let's go. Put that under the rug and let's go to the next thing. You have to stop. You have to look. You have to listen. You have to see where you're at. That's where you're going to find the freedom. That's where you really are going to be living in the glory that God has called you to. Every area of your life will be affected as you do the soul work on your own self. I'm trying to think, is there something else I wanted to share with you on that? This is a verse that I really love too, and this is one I do for myself. This is in Jeremiah. Our job is to pull down, tear down, and demolish, and then start over building and planting. And that's what I want to encourage you guys to do. You know where you're struggling. You know when you lay down at night, the thoughts that come because there is quiet and you can think. You know the things that keep you awake at night. Those are the things we want to tear down, and then we want to rebuild with the truth. And we want to look at areas in our life where maybe we've assumed things were truth that really aren't truth. And where we've taken on information that we need to let go of. Like I was saying, I do believe that the enemy comes in and wants to keep us stuck. And if we're overweight and we don't feel good about ourselves, or we don't have energy and we're exhausted all the time, how is that attractive to people? I mean, that's not something that people really want. It's very subtle how he does. He doesn't come in and do things that are obvious. He comes in very subtly and pulls the rug out from you. So you just always feel like you're missing the mark. So I don't know if any of this resonates with you. The greatest gift that you can give to your children is a healthy mom. That's the greatest gift. And I guarantee you, if my kids got on this call with you right now, they'd say, we got our mom back and we want her to be healthy until she dies. I think about this a lot, that me not taking care of myself will add a greater burden to my kids' lives. And you know how busy you are. You know how you don't have room for one more bad thing in your life if you can help it. You don't want a parent who's not taking care of themselves and then you have to take care of them too. If I can give my kids that gift, that is what I want to do. Now, I don't know what God will do. Maybe I'll end up, being very sick, but it won't be because I wasn't working towards it. And then I can say, like I tell my daughter all the time, you may have to change my diaper, but it will not be because I was not trying. And I think that's the gift you want your parents to give you. And that's the gift that you want to give your kids, a life of joy and moving forward, tearing down those things that need to be torn down and building up what needs to be built up in you and changing. You want to be healthy physically and mentally. If you have come from a dysfunctional family, it is stored in your body. And it does come out, guys. It comes out through anxiety. It comes out through so many things. So if any of you are suffering with that, I pray you will just reach out to me and talk. I can direct you to some books. I can direct you to some podcasts that will help you. And maybe this is God's gift to us at this time to help us become free, because we're loaded with information now. Now we just got to apply it. to our lives. And we've gotten late. This is where we do get lazy because we don't want to do the work on ourselves. We want to zone out at night on Netflix. We want to zone out on TikTok. We want to zone out on Facebook. We're not looking at where does my life need to be changed. So if I could encourage you at all is be the keeper of your own mental health and emotional health and physical health. You set the stage for how your kids are going to show up in their adulthood. And everything you learn is going to make them better and become better people. So that's mainly what I was thinking. I don't know if anybody has any questions. I would be glad to answer. Emily Joy, if there's anything you thought of while I was talking.
Elaine, thank you so much. Just thank you for sharing all these things with us. Yes, I did think of things while you're talking. I'm writing this whole notepad. And it's not, I'm just writing down things that you said. It's not because I have any new thoughts. I'm like, oh, this is so good. Some things that really stuck with me were it's my job to pray for my kids. Your seriousness in that, I was like, that's really convicting for me.
Yeah.
That in your 20s, you said, I didn't think I could do enough. And I was like, wow, that resonates with me too. There's plenty of times where you're like, you just feel like you have to do more, you know?
Yes.
And you don't, and it's exhausting to feel like you just can't do enough of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's not what God called us to do. I mean, he's never called that, but that's a belief that we've taken on that's been passed down too. I have a tattoo on my arm that's called "To Done" because I always thought I had to do, but when he died on the cross, it was "To Done." I don't have to do anything. And that reminds me all the time, I don't have to do anything. I want to have a relationship with Jesus, but it's not now because I think I have to. It's because I want to. And that is freedom, guys, like I cannot express. I could go a whole week without reading my Bible, and I don't doubt for 1 minute that he loves me just as much as he did on the day I read it and the day I didn't. I'm not saying that's who I want to be, but I'm just saying I have the freedom now. It's not about to doing. It's already been to done.
So I was thinking, I did have this question, Elaine. Did you ever struggle with so you said that whatever work we're not doing in ourselves, and I've heard this before too from other like very wise people. They were like, if you can ensure that whatever issues you have and you're trying not to address, like especially if you know that they're there, you're trying not to address it, you're going to pass them to your kids. You're like, oh, I'm really struggling with anxiety or whatever it is. And you're like, but it's okay. You know, everyone has that, or whatever the reason is that you're not like really like trying to figure out, okay, how can I get to the bottom of this? How can I be free from this? You know, did you ever see anything in your kids that you struggle not to blame yourself for because you knew that you didn't handle it? Does that make sense?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I think, yeah. I mean, I'm going to give you a pure example. When this happened with Jason, I was really not respecting Ron at the time. I was very angry at him in some ways because the church had just consumed us, and I felt like he wasn't there for us. And he had some feelings about this guy, and I totally ignored him because I thought, who do you think you are to come tell us this? You're not even here. You know, I mean, I'm just being honest with you. I was very disrespectful. And because I did not deal with that at that time and didn't understand all of that myself, I definitely wonder, did this go on longer than it should have? Because I was being disrespectful. Now, I think there's a lot of other things too. I mean, I think Ron had just as much responsibility too, because he didn't do, you know, what neither one of us were doing what biblically we knew to do, but we weren't dealing with it. So yes, I do think there are things. Yeah. As far as anxiety, when you feel anxious, you will walk in fear, and that will make you controlling. It can make you a military person. you will break relationships if you don't deal with it, because you will pass it to your kids, and they will either become anxious because you're a helicopter parent, or you're always thinking of, you shouldn't do this or that. Yeah, it will pass on. It
Mhm.
will pass on. Especially anxiety has a tendency to really affect kids if you don't deal with it. And there's also a lot of techniques out there now where you can look at it, but you got to figure out what your anxiety is about, because sometimes it does need medication. It really does. Sometimes it's based on fear and just wrong beliefs. And so if you can get those done, then you can solve a lot of it. A lot of anxiety is because of not feeling like you're worthy. I don't, Jamie Kern Lima, I don't know if any of y'all have heard of her. She's an amazing person. She's got a book out now called Worthy, How to Believe You're Enough and Transform Your Life. She is a believer. And this book is so good with helping you understand the difference between self-confidence and feeling worthy. There's a difference. We are worthy, and we don't have to do anything to earn that, but we've changed the meaning of it a lot. And so I do think we have to do work in those areas. I think our kids will pick up messages very subtly if we don't do the work.
Mm. Elaine, well, I do want to leave space for other people to ask questions. It looks like we have like maybe 10 minutes or so left. But I wanted to, first let me say there's a few people on this call I think that are not part of the Keepers Club. So the Keepers Club is just a Facebook group. It pretty much functions as a Facebook group right now, but it's just a community of like-minded women who are trying to keep emotionally, spiritually, and physically healthy homes. And so that's where this call is coming out of. So if you want to join that group with us, then just message me, send me a social media on Instagram or Facebook. Just DM me, and I'll get you connected to the group. But Elaine, I'm wondering if you would be willing, because you mentioned many different resources during this. I'm wondering if you would be willing, because you're in that group, would you be willing to make a list of like, just like a hit list of your top favorite, and then maybe like a little, not summary, but like you just said that book Worthy, or like,
Yes.
or defining self-confidence versus
Yep.
like
Yep.
worthiness, something like that. So we can kind of like look at that. There was a few, I was trying to write them down quick while you were
Right.
saying.
And some podcasts that I know are
Yeah.
like I have saved because they're powerful podcasts to listen to. And then there's a lady I follow too, and I'll put her in there too. Elizabeth Benton. She mainly does with weight, but it affects every area of your life because she will make you become a better thinker. She asks amazing questions that make you go a little bit deeper and help you understand yourself a little bit more while you're doing the things you do. And also, I'll put this in there, draw the circle. I don't know if any of y'all have done this, the 40-day prayer challenge. This has been a game changer for me. This is the third time I'm going through this. So what you do is you draw a circle around the things that you feel like God is telling you to pray for. So like my business is one, personally, my marriage, my grandkids, and my kids. So I've drawn a circle around them, and then I write in there the things that I'm praying for them for. And then sometimes God will add different things, that'll come up. You go, oh yeah, I need to add this to that prayer too. So you're drawing a circle for 40 days around them. And this has been a game changer for me also, with understanding how to pray for them in ways that are powerful too. But I will. It may take me a day or so, but I will get all that up there for
Totally
you.
fine.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So Cassie had written in the chat, I'll like just read off her question. How do we care for ourselves when our direct family or others in our household are not? I feel like it's so overwhelming to take care of and hold up the household for everyone because you don't have support, because your supports are not in a good place.
Okay, I'm not quite sure I get the whole picture of that, but
also, you guys can unmute and talk. Like you can ask I don't know, Cassie, if you want to elaborate on that, or if it's easier for you just to type.
Or Cassie, if that's something you want to talk to me individually about, let's set up a time, girl, because I am here for you. Seriously.
It seems like her question is she
Okay,
says,
I'm just struggling to uphold everyone spiritually. I'm wondering if you're taking too much on, like you're assuming that's your role to do everything. So I would just want to explore that with you more on a personal level. If you're willing to do that with me, I just like to know some of your beliefs and just see if they're, because we only have so much time in a day. So you can't do everything. So what could be let go of? What are the things you need to say no to? That's a whole nother issue, guys. We are people pleasers. We say yes to things that we don't need to be saying yes to, because especially when you have small kids, have more margin in your life, have more white space. Don't plan out every single thing so that you're just there. I don't know what you're doing with your kids as far as sports, but be careful. Be careful, y'all, because I think this is another way the enemy comes in to divide the family, because one's going here and one's going there. You never sit down for dinner. Just be careful. And we didn't talk about this, but just know what your values are for your family. What are the principles you want to live by? Get with your spouse and you guys really decide, because that will help you to know what we're saying yes to and what we're saying no to. And you don't have to explain your no to anyone. If it's not your time, it's not your time. If leadership wants you to do something and it's not the best for your family, you don't do it. Do what you need to do. Your time, when there will be a day, and it will come quicker than you realize, when you have all the time in the world to do stuff. But right now, take care of you, your family, have margin, have peace. You can't have peace if you're running crazy. Just have peace. Put margin, slow down. They don't have to do every single thing.
Does anyone else have any other questions for Elaine? If you do, you can just unmute and ask them. All right, it seems like no one else has any other questions, or at least not right now. But if you think of any questions, like I said, Elaine is in the Keepers Club Facebook group. So,
and you can private message me. Yeah, anything. I mean, because they can click on me and private message, right? On the Keepers group.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So message me anything. I mean, I'm really willing to help you again, because I remember what it was. And I always wanted somebody to come alongside of me and just help me know how to handle things.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, Elaine, for sharing with us. I am positive everyone on this call is walking away having learned something or being encouraged. I just feel like encouraged. I feel encouraged to not give up on the pursuit of health for my family in all the different areas. Like even you saying like, hey, I'm looking back, I see that food like needs to be prioritized, like with like different other generations, like even that is encouraging to me, because like just later, like earlier tonight, I was having not an argument, but a discussion with my 3-year-old about why Lucky Charms aren't good for us. But he really likes the marshmallows, but someone else gave us that box of Lucky Charms, and it feels like an uphill battle sometimes.
It does. It really, really does. Yeah. And maybe, and then again, just realize, be creative on like other healthy things you can make that are yummy too. I mean, now, y'all, they got so many cottage cheese recipes out there that are amazing with things you can turn into. So there are some options out there, but we have to be diligent and look, because it's a little bit more expensive and it's not as easy.
Yeah.
But when you look at the obesity rate, you really want to guard over your kids at this point.
And Elaine, me, like, even just saying, I feel like I'm like, you know, what's that verse that's like, don't grow weary of doing good.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that seemed like it was similar to that Jeremiah verse. Will you be
Mhm.
willing to share that in that book list too? I
Absolutely.
forget exactly
Absolutely.
what that was, but
The building, the
around
pulling
rebuilding.
up. Yes, yes, absolutely. Because that's what y'all are doing now. You're pulling, you're pulling up and tearing down, taking apart, demolishing, and then you're rebuilding and planting because
Yeah,
you've got a legacy that's coming up behind you.
awesome. Thank you so much, Elaine.
For
And thank
letting
you all for being on here.
me.
I will, yeah, I'll be posting the recording somewhere. I'll let you know where. So if you want to go back and reference the call, I'll let you know how to do that once I figure out where I'm going to put it.
Thank you, girls.
Thank you, Elaine. Have a good night, everyone.